This is Hi-Fi Lo-Fi. One of the features of this channel is budget hi-fi, that is audio, visual on a budget, that is to say on the cheap. So I've bought this Amazon Basics subwoofer cable. And amazingly fast delivery. I got it today, exactly 17.5 hours after I ordered it last night. And what I'd like to know is it really necessary to have a dedicated subwoofer cable, or will any RCA phono cable do the job just as well? If you know the answer to that, please let me know in the comments. And you know, these things are always good if you've had first-hand experience. There's a lot of theory and a lot of pontificating out there, but if you've actually used any old RCA cable to connect your amp to your subwoofer, has it made any difference whatsoever to a dedicated subwoofer cable? Maybe you've never tried a subwoofer cable, maybe you just did that from the start. A few years back, when I used a subwoofer, and I haven't used one for a long time, I used what was supposedly the video part of a 3-way RCA phono cable setup. So I used the two audio for, one for left, one for right, but I wasn't connecting video. So I took the video part of that cable and I used it for my subwoofer, from my amp to my subwoofer. I never had any issues with it. It worked perfectly fine. So why on earth would I go and buy a dedicated subwoofer cable? Well, I actually didn't have a spare cable. So on this occasion, that cable that I mentioned just now has long since disappeared. And what I thought was, I need a cable anyway, so why not buy a dedicated subwoofer cable? Because I needed to buy a new cable to connect my subwoofer to my amp. In fact, I now have 2 subwoofers and I've got several amps, and I will be setting up the subwoofers separately to separate amps, not obviously to the same amp. What about this cable? So this cable, I paid 705 yen on Amazon. Can't even get it open. Where is it? Oh, it's here, isn't it? So let's get it open. Remember, I don't edit these videos. So here we are. Very, very I mean, how basic is that? Really fantastic. Quite heavy actually. This is 2.4 meters, that's 8 feet, and surprisingly heavier than I was expecting. Now, does that signify some sort of quality? I don't know. It is the basic range from Amazon. It claims to have gold-plated connectors. I will say that not all budget audio has gold-plated connectors. I have plain old well, I don't know what they are. They're shiny silver metallic connectors on some of my audio. But certainly anything that claims to be upmarket always has gold-plated connectors. This does not claim to be upmarket because it's basics, but it has got gold-plated connectors. There we are. The explanation on the Amazon page said that the reason they are gold-plated was to reduce the risk of corrosion. So yeah, maybe that's the point. I find that a lot of my connections do get corroded. It's funny how it happens, even when just through the passage of time, even without touching them. So there we are. That's the cable. This is a very short video just to show you this very cheap cable, and heavier than I was expecting. And as I said, the idea is to connect it to the subwoofer, obviously it's a subwoofer cable, to the amp. Now I've got two subwoofers. One is a Sony subwoofer, it's a very cheap one. I'm doing a lot of stuff on a budget now. I'm doing a lot of cheap stuff because I've got the impression that the more you spend on audio equipment does not necessarily mean you're going to get higher quality. And certainly I don't think it's the law of diminishing returns. You can get higher quality up to a point, but when you start throwing more money at it, you may not get the return on investment as you get into the higher brackets of audio equipment, indeed anything in life, I suppose. So that was it really. I just wanted to show you that because I really wanted to have some content because it's been so long. And yeah, it's been too long, and I will definitely be posting some more videos. I just don't know when, but some more videos coming as soon as physically possible. This has been HiFi Lo-Fi. Let me know in the comments below if you have experience with subwoofer cables or any RCA phono cable that you think it's a waste of time buying a dedicated cable. On this occasion I didn't feel it was a waste of money because it was so cheap, 705 yen, and I needed the cable anyway, so it's not like I've splashed out on an expensive audiophile cable and something, you know, what do they call it, snake oil, you know, it's nothing like that. It truly was a very cheap cable, and I do need another. I've got one already which I still haven't used. I do need another subwoofer cable, as I said, so I'll try to set this up, and when I do set it up I'll do a sound test. But I am interested to know whether anybody thinks it's better to buy a dedicated subwoofer cable, or it shouldn't matter whatsoever what kind of cable you use. I mean, obviously we want these connections, these RCA connections, because that's what is output. That's the output from the amp, you know, and the input to the subwoofer. They use these connections, so that's why. But in terms of whether you use one that claims to be for a subwoofer or whether you use any RCA cable, and also the thickness of the cable, does that make a difference to the sound? You know, I am vaguely aware of the physics behind, the science behind this, you know, such as things like resistance and you know, just simply the flow of current and things like that. So but if you know, what it comes down to is what are our first-hand experiences, what have we experienced in our listening, you know, and has there been any, you know, issues, you know, have you had any problems, have you damaged anything? Ultimately though, I suspect it comes down to what you can hear with the human ear. So I say again, this has been HiFi Lo-Fi. Stay tuned.